So I will admit, I'm laughing at the fact that when I put BTS for behind the scenes, which is how it is generally referred to when you're doing television production, you shoot BTS for extra footage, stuff like that, that people are thinking that I'm talking about the band. So now I may have to just, if this is actually an idea that you guys like, gonna have to change that because that's not what that was intended for. So BTS, again, behind the scenes. So a really quick explanation, if you didn't read the description, this is totally different than what I do. And here's kind of the short of it. The majority of what you see on this channel is obviously pre-recorded. And I edit, clip together what I can, make fun cut introductions when I can, and publish those videos. So sometimes they're short. Sometimes they're just some update videos on, whatever news. And I don't get to do it as often as I'd like. That's probably going to change, though, with my son going back to school. My daughter, who's 2, has been in a daycare throughout the summer. So the hiccup was my wife's schedule at the hospital and with my son home. So now he's going back to school, and please, everybody, say thoughts, prayers, good wishes, light incense, whatever you do for all the kids going back, because it is an insane time for kids. And so as a dad, it is so hard to drop him off at a school. I know everybody has differing opinions about vaccines and COVID and stats and is it real and no masks in school, whatever. Whatever side of the fence you sit on, just think about those kids, because it's got to be tough. It really does. So anyway, not to go off on a tangent. So now I feel like I'm getting light at the end of the tunnel through summer. Now I get to record a little bit more. So I thought I had a fun idea, where I'll just turn the camera on and broadcast it for a couple different reasons. One, some of you who are dedicated to this channel, which I very much appreciate, you can see some of the videos ahead of time. You'll see the clips because I go back and forth and we'll record a couple different segments. Today, I thought I was going to do more. I think I'm going to probably record 2. So you'll see me kind of jump around. So that's the BTS, the behind the scenes. The RAW is, again, another essentially descriptor of what this is. This is just raw. Like, my dog could come busting through that door, barking on the outside. I got to take a break and go let my elderly dog, who's blind and deaf, out to go to the bathroom. Who knows what's going to happen? So even though generally live shows go out without a hitch, this is, it may be boring at some parts because when I switch around, but the intention is you guys are so, I read those live chats after the live shows, and because obviously I can't watch during. And you guys are awesome. I mean, you have so many great ideas. Some of you go off on completely unrelated topics, but most of all, the majority of you just have fun. And I thought, you know what? Let's just hang out, and it's Saturday. My son is off at soccer right now. My wife is taking care of the kids. I slept in till all of 4:50 this morning, so that's good for me. So that's awesome, because I usually get up pretty early for working, and had a good morning working in the garage. And I thought, okay, let's just start something new, see what you guys think. So that's it. That's where we are. Dolan's Bar, and so this is how this is going to work. If you didn't read the description, so I keep kind of going back to that. Stop at Dolan's when you come through Philly in the future. That is awesome. And I remember speaking to you on the last live stream, and thank you so much for the support and the donation. So, I assume it's a bar, so you'll have to direct message me some details on that. I don't have plans to go to Philly, but whenever this craziness with COVID is subsided and I get to travel again, I do plan on doing that now that my kids are a little bit older. It was very, very tough with my son as an infant, and then as he got older, then we had my daughter, but now she's getting a little bit older, so it's a little bit easier. So I'd love to. I'm going to take you up on that. If anybody's ever seen me at a conference, the best time is at the bar at these conferences. And I know that there's a lot of controversy with people, especially this day and age. So you can hear my dog in the background. Maybe she's walking around, but So I may have to go let her out. But that said, the most fun is just hanging out with people, and the bar is generally where most people congregate. If you've never been to a conference that's at a hotel or something like that, and those are the coolest stories. I mean, I can't tell you the amount of conversations that I've had with people that are just first time conference goers. They're there religiously every year, or other speakers. It's just a lot of fun. So that being said, I went off on a tangent, but Dolan's Bar, thank you. Yes, absolutely. I am going to take you up on that. And thank you for that support. See, car alarms are going off all over the place. I don't even know, if that's even coming through on the audio, but who knows what that is. The other thing before I kind of start recording the segments is the other intention is, again, just to kind of hang out. The chat room, you guys have a lot of fun interacting. The other part of it is the ability for me to pull your questions, because there's so many times where I make these videos and I realize, you know what, I forgot this, or I forgot that, or man, that's a really great question. And in my head, it's answered because I've lived and breathed some of this stuff, and I forget, that it's not in the video. A lot of these videos I don't do scripted. I'll have visuals, but literally just kind of wing it, and to a point, that is. I mean, I'll have a structure, but again, sometimes I omit stuff. So that's a way for you guys to bring in your questions and comments. And after the video too, I've got my phone system here. I'm happy to open it up if you guys want to hang out and I can answer a few questions. I've got about an hour, maybe 90 minutes. I'm not really sure. My wife may call when they're on their way home. Again, raw. I may have to turn the camera off and just take a call. So that's kind of the rundown. Paul Barton, love your work, John, from Ireland. Thanks so much for tuning in from Ireland. I really appreciate that, Paul, and thank you very much for tuning in to this brand new segment. The last thing I'll say about it before I record these two segments, and I'll let you guys decide what you want to hear first. The two segments I was going to record are the SpaceX false alarm. A lot of headlines ran it as a UFO. That was in April of this year. I got some documents on that. And then the other one is the Department of Defense briefing card that I just got a couple days ago, if that, maybe yesterday. I don't remember. All the days blur together. That's the internal Department of Defense briefing card on UAPs. So again, SpaceX or UAPs, whatever you guys want to hear first or see first, go ahead and put it into the chat, and then I'll let that decide. So the last thing, and I forgot to do something here, is share my screen. The last thing I'll throw out is this could be a completely stupid idea. I am incredibly insecure. So when I do these segments, I have a lot of outtakes, and sometimes my OCD takes over, and, I'll really want to make it as good as I can. So you guys may be witness to that and laugh at me and see that. But again, I'm fairly insecure about it. So that's going to be one of the downfalls for doing these types of videos. But in the end, I hope you guys just have fun, and share information and ideas. And if there's downtime in the video where I step out or whatever for a moment, I'll probably put a slate on screen that I'll be right back. Feel free to just have fun in the chat and go from there. And if you hate this, I won't hold you down. I'll give you your money back, the cost of admission, and you guys can just have fun. So let me see. Both interesting topics. Rather, great. Hey, Rather, good to see you here. Great idea. Both interesting topics. I vote for the briefing card. Rather, you may be taking that one and giving me the number one thing that I'll deal with here. UAP, Michael Wallace, that's another one. Rather, I saw your tweet that we didn't get to it on yesterday's Unidentified Celebrity Review show, so maybe we'll start with that. Let me see. I love live streams. They are fun. Thank you, Grandmaster UV. Appreciate it. And I caught your spelling correction there. Thank you. UAP card. Yep. All right. So we'll start with that. Bloopers. Yeah, you're probably going to get some. I've thought about publishing some of them, but some of them are ridiculous. And then I start cussing myself out, and then it gets embarrassing because I get so frustrated sometimes, because a lot of times I'll have to sneak in here, and the kids are, with mama, maybe in the pool or something. And if I'm not in the pool with them, sometimes I'll sneak in and try and record something. And when you rush, it's an awful combination. Let me see here. And I'll take random questions, and you guys will hear random stuff as we go. So that's kind of some of the benefit to these Raw shows. Any thoughts on the blue chicken cult, boys? Yeah, it's ridiculously weird. I stay away from those stories. It's silliness. I don't buy into it at all. Vault Heads has seemingly caught on. Akashi Chris, I know that our friend JT, who is an awesome friend of the show and a longtime supporter, I believe is the one that coined that. If it was taken from somebody else in the chat room, I apologize, but JT was the one that said it, that I caught, and then he had called in on the live show and said, Vault Heads, I dig it. So, and it seems like that is catching on. So JT, if you're around, that's awesome. Jeff, you may be right. That may be a covert op there with Susan Goff breaking into my car with that car alarm. Well done. So that's true. She gave me some ice cream, and then she went in and stole the stuff from my car. All right, so let's start this. Rather, you called it. So did quite a few other people. Here's part of the Raw stuff. Bear with me here. I forgot to share my screen. Make sure I don't screw this up. All right. Okay, so here's some of that Raw stuff. So I may back out here just for one moment. What I do is I am going to slate it. So after these types of shows, just to tell you guys how the process works as I kind of flip around and do a couple things here, you'll see a slate come up. I download the entire video, bring it into an editing program, and these slates, albeit possibly annoying to you guys, allows me to see it in an audio waveform. So that's why there's going to be tone. So it's called bars and tone. It allows me to see it on an audio cut because I will make audio versions of some of this, but also in the video cut, I'll be able to see that, splice it out really quick because there's no markers. So if I go on for, let's say 90 minutes, how do I find that one spot? That's how. So that's generally done. We did that in the edit bay. I edited quite a few different shows, one of which for Fox that we did. And bars and tones and slates and stuff like that were godsends when you're going through literally hours and hours and hours worth of footage. And then when you have hours and hours and hours worth of footage and you have multiple cameras, oh, it gets to be a nightmare. So anyway, forgive those types of, production insertions, so to speak, but it does help me nonetheless. If this tone comes in way too loud, please tell me in the chat room. But again, this is what helps me in the back end. Bear with me here. We're going to get started with the first segment in just a minute. Keep in mind, super chats are open. It's a great way to support the site. 100% goes back into the site. Those also stick out, will get highlighted in the segment. So when they drop for real on this channel, you'll be in it. I'll also try and pull non-super chats. They're just harder for me to see. I do this solo, so I don't have somebody to moderate or pull out questions for me, okay? So that being said, I'll stop rambling. Bear with me here. Bear with me. Well, I should probably take that off the screen there. Hey everybody, John Greenwald here with theblackvault.com. So this last week, I got an internal document from the Department of Defense that will likely be of interest to many of you. Now, for those longtime viewers of this channel or those that like to read my articles, you know that I have hammered the Department of Defense spokespeople, namely Susan Goff, but over the years have dealt with about 4 of them, I believe, that has dealt with me on UFOs. A lot of this information, the majority of it, won't be new. But what's interesting is that this is a document that pretty much culminated everything from the past couple of years and put it into one, what they call briefing card. Now, let me go ahead and pull this up here for you guys to see, and I'll go ahead and pull up the document full screen, okay? So this came from the Freedom of Information Act. I got it just this week. It's a unclassified document, so there's no classification to it, but it is an internal record for the Department of Defense, namely the Office of the Secretary of Defense Public Affairs, where they know how to answer questions on any particular topic. They're often referred to as talking points. Now, over the years, not just on UFOs, I've gone after talking points, and those are the internal, again, approved statements that if newscaster X, Y, or Z presses the spokesperson for a particular answer, what happens is they literally will sometimes read the answer, or they will have it memorized. And depending upon the skill set of that spokesperson, it's generally one of those two. But those are the approved talking points. And for those who aren't aware, generally the hot topic issues, UFOs included, but across the board, Afghanistan, the bombing by ISIS-K, all of that, they go through a careful review process for approved statements. But they don't just release these generally. There are exceptions, but they generally don't release these to the public, right? So they keep them internally and keep them only if the media asks the question. So it could be unclassified, but that doesn't mean they just, pass these out as pamphlets to the press corps. Rather, they keep it close to the vest and only give those statements when they are asked. So this is the UAP internal briefing card for the report that came out, the UAP report that didn't come out until June. But obviously internally, they were planning for that. So the press corps and all of the media people, they were obviously going to have a heck of a lot of questions. And so what they did was they created this internal card. One thing I did not write about on the site, which will be unique to this video, is that this was not just for OSD. OSD actually forwarded this out to multiple agencies. In one specific case that I can vouch for, NASA received it. So OSD, although creates it for the DoD, right? So the Pentagon spokespeople likely prepared it, and you'll see here at the bottom, prepared by, and it's classified, or excuse me, not classified. It's redacted. It's exempted, so it's not classified information. This is likely Susan Goff. So she prepared these because she essentially wrote most of these lines. And going back to my statement, where some of you who have read my material over the last few years, some of these are going to sound really familiar. But let me go through some of them, because one stuck out that I think that you guys will I think find intriguing, and I can argue both ways of why they said this. But let me go ahead and let me read a couple lines here. Public and news media interest in unidentified aerial phenomena remains high. DoD formally established a UAP task force per the fiscal year 2019 NDAA on August 4th, 2020. The Senate Select Committee on Intelligence report attached to the fiscal year 21 Intelligence Authorization Act, signed into statute as part of the Omnibus Spending Bill signed on December 27, 2020. These are mouthfuls. Directed the Director of National Intelligence in consultation with the Secretary of Defense to submit a report to Congress on UAPs within 180 days of enactment. The SSCI report specifically mentions the UAPTF. Recently, which was in March, John Ratcliffe, former DNI, spoke with Fox News about the report, generating multiple queries asking for DoD comment on his claims in the interview. CBS 60 Minutes aired a segment on May 16th on DoD's efforts to examine UAPs. So I wanted to read that to you guys just to get an idea. This is what they called the executive summary of what they were dealing with, and these were all of the talking points. I'm going to read some to you. We are aware of the report requirement, and the UAPTF team is actively working with the Office of Director of National Intelligence on the report. I refer you to ODNI for anything else regarding the report. So when you read these, imagine a spokesperson talking to the press corps. That's what this is all about. Here's another one. We take reports of incursions into our airspace by any aircraft, identified or unidentified, very seriously and investigate each one. They've used that line for a couple years now. Safety of our personnel and security of our operations are of paramount concern. Another one that has been duplicated many times over. To protect our people, maintain operational security, and safeguard intelligence method, we do not publicly discuss the details of the UAP observations or the task force or examinations. Essentially, they've shut this down. And this is the proof. This is the proof that they are closing the door moving forward on giving the public information about their investigations into UAPs, details about UAPs, UAP cases, and so on. So what does that mean? Well, for me, I say challenge accepted, because I will go after those documents and those files regardless. But they are trying to give the aura that what they are doing with the UAP topic is classified. Now, in these briefing cards, they also have the Q&As. So this is something that what they call the top line messages. These are what they probably will more freely give out. So if you watch Jen Psaki at the White House and she's talking about, whatever subject at hand, I'll use the ISIS-K attack. She'll kind of give some like a rundown of maybe some stats or some details or updates or whatever. That's generally the top line. And then she'll open up to Q&A and she'll say, okay, can you get, whomever, CNN, and then CNN will ask. And let's say they start asking these types of questions, and these are references for the spokespeople to refer to. This is the one that I think most of you will find the most fascinating. Has the department found any evidence of extraterrestrial technology? The answer, approved answer. The examinations into incursions by UAPs are still ongoing. The department does not comment on intelligence matters. Here is the main reaction that I've seen from the general public since I posted this just days ago. They didn't say no. So for me, I try and remove myself because I do find that interesting. They didn't say, we can't definitively say no, but we find no, evidence of it or what. They just don't even comment on it. Is that important? And to be honest with you, I can argue it both ways, and I'm not sure. So I will take your comments, put them on this video. Feel free to comment below and let me know why you think they didn't. In my personal opinion, I lean towards when they don't comment on something, they don't comment on something and they leave it at that. And that if the question was, Mrs. Spokeswoman, are these intelligent ants that have grown to 5 foot in length? Will they say no? Well, probably, but in the same respect, will they just not comment? No matter what you throw at them, no matter what definition you have, will they say no comment? So, the mega giant ant thing may be kind of stupid and silly to use as an example, but what I'm trying to say is no matter what descriptor, no matter what definition that you put on it, if the going line is do not talk about it, then the answer is we don't talk about it. But they didn't say no. And I know that a lot of people from the readership that I've seen when I first published this just days ago really, really felt that that was the most important. Here's a couple other ones. Do you have any comment on the remarks made by John Ratcliffe to Fox News? The official line, as he was the former DNI and ODNI has led on the UAP report, I refer you to ODNI. So whenever they can, they push you to somewhere else. Why they did the UAPTF is pretty standard. Why did the Navy change its reporting guidelines on UAPs? Here's their answer. We are using a data-driven approach. Sometimes there are phenomena for which we don't have sufficient data. We wanted to establish an environment where our force feels comfortable reporting all observations so we can collect data, make informed determinations, and address our findings. UAPTF, did it find anything thus far? And here it is again. We don't comment on intelligence matters. Why can't you tell us anything about UAPs? The official answer, DoD does not provide information about operational or intelligence activities that would identify possible U.S. vulnerabilities. I'm kind of curious what vulnerabilities they're discovering other than the obvious, that they're being encroached upon by something that they can't identify or stop. So that was a little bit telling. Again, nothing new, but telling nonetheless. What budget does the UAPTF have? Answer, as the lead agency, the U.S. Navy identifies and uses appropriated defense funding to meet UAPTF requirements. So in other words, they're not telling you. Additional background information not for release. Except for its existence and the mission/purpose, virtually everything else about the UAPTF is classified per the signed Security Classification Guide. I've mentioned this once before, and I'll mention it again in this video. On a hunch, in January, I have gone after this Security Classification Guide, and it was not revealed to exist until about, I think it was about 2 months later, that I got some emails, and Joseph Gradisher, who is a Navy spokesperson, I'm kind of going from memory on the chronology, so it may not be exactly 2 months, but it was after January that the Security Classification Guide was revealed. Why is that important? And in essence, that SCG will outline essentially everything about the security and classification on UAPs. The why, the how, what are they going to do? How do they lock this down? And it's kind of an interesting thing to have been revealed that all of that was worked out already. So my FOIA is still open, the case to get that SCG. I'm hoping that I'll get it, sometime by the end of my life, but who knows with some of this stuff. But this was a very interesting paragraph also that, again, in an unclassified document, they still had stuff not for release. I am surprised that this wasn't stamped for official use only, but who knows? There's all sorts of quirky things. So anyway, going through, I won't go through and make this a 12-hour video going through every line, but I invite you to look at the link below, download the document, and see internally all of the approved talking points. But one thing else that I wanted to point out is the bracketed points here. So there's all these ifs, like, well, if they push you on this, or if this happens, answer this way. So here's a couple of them. If asked about announcing the UAPTF without further public discussion, the answer: we want the American public to be aware of the Department of Defense's efforts to preserve national security. We will continue to share what we can about the program as appropriate. Let me pull in one of the chat room questions as I go through here. Rather Be Squidding, thank you so much for that. If you are not aware, I am starting to broadcast some of these in raw form for you all to take part. So if you're watching this video and it's not live, then make sure you subscribe to the channel, because next time you can get your question in on the essentially the live or behind the scenes video, which I started to do for fun. That way you can take part in getting your question answered. So Rather, thank you so much for that support. How often and when, if all, do you think this briefing card would be updated? Fantastic question, Rather, and I don't have an answer to it, but I can tell you what I'm doing to find that out. So as we know, and I'll come back to this point, as we know that this particular card was May 17th, 2021. This particular document, this version, came out in a FOIA case that may not have included all of the briefing cards that they've created, if any others exist. Before I publish this publicly, I have already filed a new case that would yield every single version and every single, we'll call it variation. Now, I'm careful using the word draft, although draft versions of this could exist as well. The problem in the FOIA is that draft versions are exempt generally. So for the most part, they can exempt, let's say there's 5 draft versions of this document here. If the number 1 through 4 were considered draft form and this is final, 1 through 4 would be exempted. 5 is released according to my request. But what I don't know, and this is what I'm kind of fishing for with FOIA, it's a fishing expedition sometimes. This was the briefing card for the UAP report to Congress. Now, some of these points dealt with the UAPTF or Luis Elizondo, which I'll get to in a minute, ATIP, John Ratcliffe, which was timely at the time this was written, a couple other things. Is there a briefing card solely on the UAPTF? Is there a briefing card solely on the Luis Elizondo / ATIP, we'll call it controversy? all of which were dealt with in part in this, but that doesn't mean or take away from the reality there may be briefing cards on all of that. So my case is going after all of that. My new one, I should say, will go after all of that to answer that question. Is this going to be updated? Likely not, only because this was pre-UAP reports published. This ship has sailed, so to speak, but that doesn't mean that they don't have something else. That, again, briefing card solely on UAPs as a phenomena, as a whole. And then they have a list of questions and so on and so forth. So all of that could be true, and we don't have the answer, but it's a great question, rather, and thank you for that. Let me go back down here. Get this off the screen. So back to these sections here where they were like, if you're pressed. Here is where they dealt with Mr. Luis Elizondo. If asked about the role of former DoD employee Luis Elizondo in the Advanced Aerospace Threat Identification Program, their answer, Luis Elizondo had no assigned responsibilities for ATIP while assigned to OUSDI. That is incredibly controversial. There will probably be in the live, for those joining the live version, chats messages regarding that all across the board. The problem is that we don't, I hate to say it this way, we don't have a final determination on that. The key here is no assigned responsibilities. This word was added later, assigned. I know I will get heat for saying that this is not a settled issue. It's just not. There's no, yes, I know about the Harry Reid letter. Yes, I know about the controversy. And yes, I know about the flip-flopping on the side of the Pentagon. I know all that. But what I'm looking for is that solidified proof. And if this keyword here, assigned, means something, I believe there's more to the story. Now, does that mean that Mr. Elizondo is lying? No, that's not what this means. Does that mean that this is highly controversial and people will partly support pushing that question while the other part will throw things at me? Absolutely. That is very true. But what's interesting that despite everything that has happened, right, everything that has been revealed, even the reality of the Pentagon flip-flopping on their statements, they have stood true to that statement. Why? Why don't they just flip like they did on a couple other things? They didn't quite flip as many times as some people have claimed, but they have flip-flopped. I've written articles specifically on that. So why are they still in May of this year holding true to that and holding true to this? If asked whether the UAPTF is a continuation of ATIP, the relationship between UAPTF and ATIP, the UAPTF is not a continuation of ATIP, since the majority of reporting about UAP observation in recent years came from naval aviators. The Department of the Navy has been leading assessments of UAP incursions into DoD training ranges and designated airspace since approximately 2018. Beginning in 2019, DoD undertook efforts to formalize the good work done by the Navy for DoD. Former Deputy Secretary Norquist approved the establishment of the UAPTF on August 4th. If asked about ATIP, and this is more what I was referring to, the purpose of the Advanced Aerospace Threat Identification Program, or ATIP, was to investigate foreign advanced aerospace weapon system applications with future technology projections over the next 40 years, and to create a center of expertise for advanced aerospace technologies. The goal was to help understand the threat posed by unconventional or leap-ahead aerospace vehicles and technologies that could have national security implications for the United States. That's a line that they've touted for years. They continue to deny that it was a UFO research program, but now they have said that they utilized UFO reports in ATIP, whatever that means. So at the bottom line is it's fascinating when you put all of this on a chronological timeline. That's my overall point. That there are many who are arguing that the DoD IG, the Inspector General, now is involved. Luis Elizondo's complaint is in. I tried to get that complaint through FOIA. It was exempted, so I was denied. I hope it does get released because I'd love to see that even if the names are removed, I'd love to see what the complaint truly was. Because if he's fighting to counter this statement, which is great, I encourage him to do so. Why are they still touting it? Granted, this was May, and things, the complaint was in around this time. I forget the exact date, but there should be enough time for there to be other, let's call it amendments or changes to documents such as these. However, even well post this document's creation, the Pentagon has told me the same line about Mr. Elizondo. In fact, in a legal FOIA appeal, not even the case, but the appeal, where my next step would be to take the Navy to court, I used Mr. Elizondo's testimony that he had given in public to counter and appeal the final decision of a case. I won't go into great detail about that because it's still open, but that portion of my appeal was denied and essentially discounted. The citation in their very long denial letter was that they do not believe that Mr. Elizondo had any role in ATIP. Ergo, his testimony was not, we'll call it legally admissible, but it wasn't the courts. That's my next step. So forgive the phrasing because this wasn't a court proceeding. But essentially they discounted it, and that was the citation at the bottom of the letter. So some people think I'm hounding on this and beating the dead horse. It has no bearing on what I believe or not believe. In the eyes of the legal cases that I fight and that I write appeals on and try and get records, that is why these types of things are important. And that's why I keep bringing stuff like this up, because we have to deal with it eventually. We need that verifiable proof for people like me and me specifically to take that into a legal FOIA appeal or into the courts. That would be my step number 3. You go FOIA case, FOIA appeal, and then judicial review. So I need that. But if they're discounting it, that's why all of this is important. And that's why these internal documents all help tell that story. So it's very important. Again, it doesn't matter if you believe it or not. It's important nonetheless, because if there is any hope for some of this material to get out, it will likely be through not only the Freedom of Information Act, but the appeal process and potentially the courts. And if that is true, then we have to get beyond this type of stuff, get the proper evidence, and move on. And so that's why I have beaten that dead horse, not because I'm a meanie and not because it's fun for me. It's not. But from a legal standpoint, we have to deal with it, regardless of where you sit. So that is the talking point UAP report briefing card from the DoD. The video went on a little bit longer than I thought, but hopefully that gives you guys a bit of an understanding about how those documents work, why they're written, why they exist. And even though it was really cool to see the UAP report, going back to Rather's question, do others exist? Are they updating this? What else is there? And I'm happy to say that there's a FOIA case which may reveal just that. And when it does, I'll come right at you on this channel with a new video. And with that said, thank you guys for taking part in this and for your questions. As always, please give me a thumbs up. It always helps the channel. That is the biggest way that you can spread the word, is make sure you give the thumbs up, subscribe, and share with your friends and family if you feel so inclined. There's a Patreon link in the description below, along with other links to download this document and much more. Thank you so much. This is John Greenwald Jr. signing off, and we'll see you next time. Sorry about that. See, I muted my mic. That way I could have an audio cut, and I forgot. Apologies. What I said there when I looked like I was crying and wiping, my eye was tearing throughout that. So hopefully it didn't look like I was weeping throughout that. But anyway, hopefully you guys got a good idea about that. I wanted to pull more questions, but here's the issue. There was a lot of questions there that were not pertaining to the video, which are awesome during an AMA, and please, by all means, post them. But that was why I didn't pull any more, just because I couldn't read all of the chat. I pulled Rathers because those super chats really pop out on my screen. But on top of that, gave me the ability to, make it pertaining to the video. So I apologize if I missed anything. So this is more of the raw part of this. Let me kind of go through this and see what I missed, and I'm happy to answer some of those questions. Samples, thank you so much for that. How many people, in your opinion, have the clearance level on this topic, and if said person broke their NDA? I assume, Samples, that you're talking about the UAP topic and how many people have clearance for that. It depends on what level they consider where they operate. So are they at the top secret level? And I don't think that that's ever been known, other than them referring to it as a classified topic and something that will remain classified. They don't say it's going to be top secret, or whatever it might be. I have looked for that. The security classification guide, the SCG that I talked about in that video, absolutely will likely reveal that if I can get my hands on it. So that reminds me, I'll probably pop them a message and give them a call and, just try and get some kind of an idea of when they may release that. But so that's kind of the long-winded way to explain why I can't answer your question, because if it is at the top secret level, then it's, is it compartmentalized? Is it, how many people in that particular, let's say, U.S. Navy or wherever have that type of clearance? Then would they have a need to know? So there's really no way to tell. In my personal opinion, it's probably not as highly classified as we think, simply because they're talking about it. So that kind of rules out, when you get into like unacknowledged special access programs and stuff like that, that really do operate with a lot of layers of secrecy. That's not what this is. In my opinion, it likely does operate at the top secret level. That's just conjecture and an opinion and educated guess, just simply because of the instrumentation that they are likely working with, whether that be on board an F-18, whether that be satellites, the signals intelligence, sources and methods, if they're dealing with international stuff. In my opinion, it would likely be at the top secret level for some of those reasons. And then there was a great question on Reddit, and I'll bring it up now, and then we'll do the second video. We'll take a stab at it. I don't know if it'll come out good, but we'll try it. Was I crying? Yes, I was crying. Okay, I'll admit it. It's very sensitive, this UAP stuff. No, I wasn't crying. It's allergies. Made me lose my train of thought there. Now I totally lost it. The great question on Reddit. The question was about my effort to get the classified version of the UAP report reviewed and released, even in part. Now, why am I bringing this up to your question, Samples? And there's a reason. And it speaks to classification and the levels of classification. So I'll give you an example. The question again was, why would they release it to you if it's classified? And my answer was simply because a lot of classified information is not actually technically classified. The only reason that it's classified is because it's in a classified document that has other truly classified information in it. So for example, you have a one-page memo that is classified top secret, and it has 5 paragraphs, right? 5. Number 1 has a parenthetical of TS, and then it has, a couple sentences, TS being top secret. The next 4 have a parenthetical with U in the middle. It's unclassified. The entire document is top secret. Okay, so it's stamped top secret, top to bottom. Why? Because it has to bear the classification of the highest classification on the record. So the top secret paragraph number 1 resulted in a full 1-page top secret memo. Now, what happens when you redact paragraph 1? Then the document is declassified, it's considered unclassified, and released to a FOIA requester like me. Let's attribute that to the UAP report. 17 pages. I know that's controversial, but it is what it is. My request yielded a 17-page document. Let's say 70% of that is at an unclassified level. Is it top secret? They would not divulge that at the time or now, because it is, as it sits, a classified document. So they wouldn't reveal any details other than the page count, because that was legally afforded to me through my case. So they had to tell me what the case yielded, which was 17 pages, but they didn't tell me the classification, at least not yet. So would it be 100% classified, let's say top secret, top down? No, the likelihood of that is fairly nil, simply because you have a 9-page public version of a quote-unquote same document. So therefore, it's probably safe to assume there's quite a bit of unclassified information in it, all hidden behind top secret or secret stamps. And so my review will make them go through and say, okay, this truly is classified, all of this is not, and they really release the document. At least we hope. Anyway, that's what I'm hoping. But hopefully that gives you a little bit more of an idea about clearances and levels and why I can't really answer your question per se, because it becomes very complicated and very complex about how that entire process works, and ultimately who would have access to all of that material. And no one really knows that. The only time when you really have a short list of people, and that likely is numbered and highly watched, would be more of those SAPs and stuff like that, where you only have 10, 20, 50 people involved in a program, and that's it. And that is what has always intrigued me about Luis Elizondo, and it's not UFO related. It's the director of the National Program Special Management Staff position that was on his resignation letter. And what I was able to uncover was that trial with Khalid Sheikh Mohammed was one of the only official documents that I found that referenced Elizondo's position. And what I deduced from the court transcript was that it was Mr. Elizondo and or his office that would give access to SAPs to whomever needed it, that they were the ones that orchestrated that access. And in regards to Khalid Sheikh Mohammed, his interpreter needed SAP access to give him a proper defense. I mean, that's kind of the very small nutshell. But essentially, it was a SAP, because they had to go in and access potentially classified information to give this guy, like he deserved it, a proper trial and proper defense. And he lost that access, and that was why it was brought up to the judge. Only one of the only official things that I've ever found that was about the NPSMS. And then later, I found out who took over from Mr. Elizondo, which I didn't make a big deal out of it, but I did tweet about it. But I'm still pursuing that. But I discovered who took over for him. They released the name, which I was really surprised at, on a document, very small on the bottom corner. But I picked up on the initials and who it was. And then I've been pursuing that as well. I believe she's moved on now. So, it's not somebody that's currently there. But regardless, she went in to the NPSMS. So I'm trying to unravel all these layers, and it really is fascinating. And the majority of my interest in it has nothing to do with UFOs, because Mr. Elizondo or not, it didn't matter if it was him or not. This has nothing to do with him. I'm just so intrigued by that position because there's so little available on it. So secrecy is crazy. It really is, when you really start digging into it, and it's confusing and convoluted, but it's a whole lot of fun. All right. There's a new one. BTS is bacon, tomato, and spaghetti. That's fun. John is a BTS super fan. Yes, I'm going to not use BTS anymore. Behind the scenes, everyone, not the band. I don't listen to them, although they came on the radio the other day, and I was so upset because the song was good. And then I'm like, oh my God, I cannot say I'm a BTS fan. But it's funny, when I wrote that and created the stream, I had no idea. that you guys would deduce that it was the band. So anyway, behind the scenes, I'll edit that later. Let me see a couple more questions and we'll do the other one. Is NASA as out of the loop as they act they are? Great question. I wasn't sure. I'll let you guys decide. You want to see a video on it? I did it on the AMA, so it might be repeat for some of you guys, but I had discovered through FOIA, Bill Nelson was scheduled to have a UAP briefing. I had published probably about 6 weeks prior the fact that the UAPTF had originally reached out to NASA to brief them on UFOs. That was kind of interesting because NASA wasn't part of their public report on UAPs. Like, what role did NASA have? NASA's been pretty distanced from any paranormal /UFO /UAP stuff. And so, what was up with that? So the UAPTF reached out to NASA and said, we want to brief you. That did take place. What was really fascinating was one of the guys was from Bass that worked for NASA. And it was a really interesting parallel where this guy likely, if I remember the chronology, when he worked for Bass, would have been there during the OSAP days. So it was a really weird parallel between that. Well, fast forward, new documents, new discovery, Bill Nelson himself, the administrator, was being briefed the week before last. And things go on the schedule all the time. They also come off the schedule. I had 2 verifiable documents that said that he was going to be briefed, but I wanted a third just to make sure if I reported it to you guys, it was legit and solidified, and eventually got that confirmation from the Pentagon that it would take place. Even though they would not comment that Nelson would be there, the documents that I got through FOIA confirmed that Nelson was going to be there. So the spokespeople, they refrain from saying, oh yes, this person will be there, and so on and so forth. But FOIA did that for me. So that was 3 essential sources that confirmed that he was briefed. Now, what's my point with that? Are they as clueless? Well, they're definitely being kept in the loop by the request of the UAPTF. But on top of that, all the way to the top, that NASA is essentially being briefed about all this. And so with that, they know what's going on. Whether or not they're contributing or not, that is something that I'm not really sure of. They talk big when you listen to some of their, press conferences and stuff. They talk big about the astrobiological side and the search for extraterrestrial life at a distance. Very rarely do they talk about extraterrestrial life either here or within, arm's reach, so to speak, in our corner of the cosmos. So they don't really go that route. It seems like they've opened up a little bit. Nelson has had some cool sound bites saying that he believes that there's life out there. I mean, I would hope that anybody who runs NASA would believe that because, let's face it, it's that's something that I would hope that they would lead the agency with that mindset. I mean, why else would you lead a space agency if you thought we were alone and you thought everything was a waste? You'd probably never see funding or approvals for searching for life in the universe by somebody who didn't believe there was life in the universe. So even though there was a lot of big deals that made out of that, personally, it wasn't a big surprise. He doesn't have to say it, but I would say that anybody who's running NASA would say that, just simply because why else would they get funding? So, they're definitely involved to a point. Do they know what's going on? And do they really hold the secrets to the universe? I don't know. I really don't. I keep digging on NASA. It's interesting to see some of the documents that have come out, so I'll keep plugging away on it. But yeah, there's really no way to tell if they're really in that dark. That's also some of the problem with repeated government lies. You do it long enough, then you don't know what to believe anymore. Leaf from Ireland. Thank you so much for that. Appreciate all your efforts, John. Admiration from Ireland. You guys are from all over the world today. This is so awesome. I love stuff like that. So thank you. This is one of those raw moments, though. Forgive me. I'm going to go get some water before the second video. For those who maybe are joining in, there's a couple hundred of you watching here on YouTube. Very cool to see. This is something new. It's fun, little raw, behind the scenes. No, it's not the band. I just record a couple segments at a time, and I thought, hey, what better way to do that than just do it live and have you guys chat and have fun in the chat room. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is get some water real quick before I do it, and hang out in the chat. I'll be right back. I'm not going to be long. My kitchen's not far. It's just on the other side of that door. But I am going to turn the camera off, and I will be right back. There is somebody watching right now, and I got water just to prove it because he texted me, and he's making a joke. My father, he's stalking me again on this show. Hi, Dad. He texted me when I went on the kitchen excursion to get water. So let me. I should be back. Yeah, it's not muted. All right, good. What's up, Dad? Yeah, thank you, OG Skywatch. Here you go, Dad. Put that name in lights there. Yeah, I got your letters, by the way. All of you who listened to me and my dad called in, for those who aren't aware, called in my last AMA, and we had a blast talking. That was not planned. I had no idea, although I know Mom and Dad listen in on shows that I do sometimes. That was an awesome surprise. So Dad texted me, and apparently he's watching again. So hi, Dad. And it looks like you got quite a few fans in here, Dad. I'll get to that. Is that Susan's skull behind you? Possibly. I'm not sure if I should reveal the identity of who that is. John, I thought it was over. Came in too late. Nope. It's read the description a little bit. All behind the scenes stuff. Just kind of a fun idea I thought I'd do. I see a lot of chat going on, so that's awesome. Let me see. Hi, Papa Greenwald from Grandmaster UV here, Dad. There you go. Hi, Dad, from Judy. Look at you go. Let me see. Any more questions here? Sebastian. Papa Greenwald, what's up, Daddy Greenwald? Make more Johns. I think he's done with that. But nice thought nonetheless. Let me see. Fun. All right, you guys have fun in the chat. So this is, I just have to reset this here really quick. So this will be the SpaceX one that I talked about. This won't be as long. So these types of videos obviously update everybody on the documents. I've been so surprised at how many of you don't use social media. Obviously you're here on YouTube if you want to consider that social media, but I'm talking about the Twitters and Facebooks and all that. How many comments that I receive and how many letters from you on this channel that this is how you kind of keep up to date. And that's awesome. So encouraging. I'm sorry that I haven't been able to do as many videos, but it was really surprising to me. I just figured like anybody who followed the Black Vault was on Twitter or Facebook, and between the two, you'd see it, but I guess not. So yeah, Spaghetti Lee, no Facebook. Well, you're not alone. There's a lot of people in the same way. Samples, I only use Twitter, or I only use Twitter. I have Facebook. Yeah, it just seems like either it's sometimes it's one or none. Not generally all of the above. I use all of the above, but I'm not sure if that's to me, but yes, the Black Vault is on Facebook. Reddit, you'll find me on there as well. Reddit is great. There's a lot of amazingly smart people on Reddit. If anybody has never used that, it's a little more, what's the right word? It's a little less user-friendly, I would say. So a little bit more geared towards, more techies. I don't know if that's accurate. I'm a geek, so when I say stuff like that, I don't mean it in a derogatory way, but it's just more geared, I think, towards more tech savvy people. But regardless, there are some insanely smart people on there. So we all got kicked off of social media. I wonder why, Brian. What did you do? What rule did you break? My dad, I'm surprised, has not been banned from. I keep banning him from the Black Vault. He keeps coming up. Keeps popping in somehow. Captain Scamp, a name that's been around for a while on this channel. Thanks so much. YouTube only. Yeah. So surprised to hear that. Judy, you're the best. Just because, have fun. Well, that's what I love to do. And that's what I thought would be fun about these types of things. And we'll see if I have any time here. I told you that it's a little bit raw, so forgive me. I am sending a text message because I want to check on how much time I have here. All right. I feel so awkward, but I warned you guys. This is all the raw stuff. So Judy, thank you so much for that. Really, really appreciate it. And yeah, I just thought this would be a fun way to have some fun and bring people together. And if nothing else, get the chat room hopping with a couple hundred people and go from there. Reddit is good as long as you don't touch politics. I think that's true for any social media. I think the original intent was never to be a political chain match. What do they call it? Cage match. Sorry, chain match. Cage match. But man, it really turns ugly if you turn that into a political discussion. All right. I saw this question. Terrence, do you think aliens have anything to do with the pandemic? No, I do not. But if they really want to save us from COVID, because I'm sick and tired of COVID and I want it to go away. So if the aliens are really out there and they really want to help us, I don't buy into the whole they're here to save us from nukes. Save us from COVID, for crying out loud, because I'm sick and tired of it. Do a FOIA on the origin of Trump's hair. That I think would be a pretty difficult road to go down. So, yeah. Although, have you ever seen a picture of his mother? And I'm not talking bad about his mother, but you can tell he really got his hair from his mother. And it's uncanny, the similarities. Anyway, I always got a kick out of that. But that was not meant to be negative. I don't make fun of people's mothers, but that's where his hair came from. All right, let me pull this, make sure it's up. Nope. There we go. All right, forgive the bars and tones. I didn't see any complaints on the bars and tones. I'll go back and look if it comes out really loud. But again, this helps me find the different segments. Bear with me. That's fun and exciting, isn't it? All right, hold on one sec. Hey everybody, John Greenwald here with theblackvault.com. So I want to go over some documents with you guys that deal with SpaceX and what they call a false alarm. Now the headlines originally ran that it was a UFO back in April of 2021, this year, the 23rd to be exact. They had launched a Falcon 9, and during the launch, or excuse me, after the launch, they had essentially an encounter with an unknown object. We'll call it like that for now. There's no real better way to put it. That's what was reported. Now, on this particular mission, there were a couple things that happened. Later on, I believe this was the mission where they had some kind of space debris pass in between their camera and the Dragon spacecraft. But that's not what this is referring to. This was... and I'll read it to you here. Let me go ahead and pull up the article that I had written about it. This was originally, this part anyway, was originally written by Futurism. So I want to read it to you to just kind of give a brief overview of what was originally reported. The launch went by without a hitch, but the crew of 4 did experience a scare when en route to the International Space Station when they were notified of a potential collision with an unidentified object. The NASA SpaceX team was informed of the possible conjunction by U.S. Space Command. NASA spokesperson Kelly Humphreys told Futurism. The object being tracked is classified as unknown. There was no time, Humphreys said, to perform an avoidance maneuver to get out of the way of the object. Instead, SpaceX advised that the astronauts put on their pressurized suits in case of a collision. You can only imagine what that felt like to the astronauts, but that's what it was originally reported. Now, the New York Post had then kind of revised their own reporting, but also excelled the story that it was considered a false alarm, that the object was essentially not really an object, that it wasn't there. Their reporting said a spokesperson for the NASA Johnson Space Center said the warning of a possible collision was in fact based on a false report. Upon further analysis, Space Control determined the potential conjunction between the Crew 2 capsule and the object was a false report. There was never a collision threat to the Crew Dragon, and the astronauts safely continued their mission, NASA spokesperson Kelly Humphreys told the Post on Monday. So what I did was I'm intrigued by encounters like this, especially when the encounters are reported and then retracted. You know, we've heard that quite a bit over the decades, especially with unidentified object encounters, that they will have this type of encounter and then all of a sudden they don't. So what is that? So what I did was I went after the documentation on this to try and figure out, okay, well, what is there to be found? Now, this came with two releases. I'm going to go over the first release first, and then the second release just happened days ago, and that will make more sense in a moment. So here's some of the highlights. This particular document, this was an internal slide from a PowerPoint presentation that, again, I invite you all, look at the links below, and that will take you to all of the documents so you can download. But here's an important part of the document. We learned this object was an analyst sat. This is not a real object, but a ghost object that is input into the system by Space Force for their internal purposes. Should not have been delivered to NASA as conjunction. Conclusion: no expected impact to tomorrow's timeline due to crew working during pre-sleep. Lessons learned action: work with Space Force to prevent analyst sat from being used in conjunction analysis. Now, if you have no idea what analyst sat is, don't worry, neither did I. It's essentially something that, from what I deduced from these documents, that the Space Force will essentially put in a phantom object, something that doesn't truly exist, whether it be for training or something like that. So, and again, from what I've deduced from all of this, that they can learn from it, train from it. What happens if really there was, let's say, a micrometeor or something like that that threatened the spacecraft? What could they do, if anything, before impact? Well, from this, you can tell that the Space Force, which has that capability, fed the phantom object back to NASA's control center, and in Johnson, the Space Center looks at it and goes, "Uh-oh, there's a collision coming. There's this object. And then that's what we originally were reported to. Yet the internal documents say it was all the Space Force's fault. Some of the other key, and I got all the email exchanges. So again, you can download all those below. It might be a little hard to read as a broadcast through to YouTube, but I'll read it to you. I got all of the internal exchanges when they were talking about this analyst sat. One thing really did kind of stick out, as written by a NASA engineer by the name of Brian Corley. Now, Brian Corley had responded to one of the emails, and this highlighted part here, it is hard to keep track of what is internal knowledge and what has made it out. Essentially, he's saying that during these missions, there is stuff that happens that remains internal knowledge and other stuff that essentially goes out to the general public. What are they hiding on stuff like this? You know, I mean, this is a NASA engineer. So what is it about these launches that, you know, that they're trying to keep track of? What does the public not know? Well, what is it other than, you know, proprietary information and stuff about crew, let's say safety, if that makes sense, you know, that I'm sure that they have a lot of security for certain details about crew locations and stuff like that. But what is it about these types of events that remains internal? And I was really intrigued by that because NASA, you know, essentially has to be that transparent agency where they don't work on a lot of these, you know, classified programs. All of this is generally in the public. What they have in recent years have obviously leaned towards is holding hands with the commercial side of all of this. In this specific case, SpaceX. In the FOIA response letter that revealed these documents and many others, they said that there was, and they wouldn't name the number of pages, there was an unknown number of pages that were SpaceX's responsibility to review to see if they were okay with it being released. That happens under exemption FOIA B4. B4 stipulates that, let's say, commercial trade secrets, financial information with contractors, stuff like that. Again, those commercial agreements that are done between, let's say, a space agency like NASA and SpaceX. Now, these documents obviously were pertaining to this encounter, so I wasn't going for contractual financial information, but that's essentially what B4 usually is used for. So SpaceX got the documents, reviewed them, and this is what came just days ago on the 27th of August. NASA's July 2021 letter responded to located records where NASA had the full equities. This response pertains to emails generated by SpaceX, where NASA was required to obtain their views on disclosure by Executive Order 12600. We received their objections and made an independent determination in accordance with the FOIA to determine whether they may be disclosed to you. Based on that review, this office is withholding these 3 pages of emails in full pursuant to Exemption B4. I'm curious. I mean, it's their right to do it, but why did SpaceX not want this stuff out to the public? I'm not insinuating a cover-up of any kind, but what I find interesting is there's more here. If this was something that was simply routine and it was the Space Force's fault, what is it in those 3 pages of emails that SpaceX didn't want out? That I don't have an answer to, but that was the update on this particular case. Here is the full, you can see here, document batch. I went over a couple things, but you can see there's quite a bit more. That this was the PowerPoint presentation, all the internal emails, and all sorts of different logs, all of the notes from the mission. You can get an awful lot through the Freedom of Information Act. So that just gives you guys a little bit of an overview, and you can see it continues to go down and down and down. Hopefully those that are looking to use the Freedom of Information Act, that they want to look for records like this, do so. Because you never know what you will come up with and what kind of little nuggets and gems that may appear. And with that, I hope you all enjoyed the video and the update. If you can, please give the video a thumbs up. That is one of the biggest ways you can help this channel. Make sure you're subscribed turn the notifications on, and above all else, the biggest help is sharing the videos with your friends, family, and on social media if you use it. That said, this is John Greenwald Jr. signing off, and we'll see you next time. All right, that's the break. Boom, boom. See that? That was fun. Okay, so I don't know how much... I'll pull some maybe chat questions. Okay, so I saw this one. I kind of made a brief reference to it. The video that you're talking about, that is of, and I'm kind of going from a little bit of memory, but hopefully this will make sense. Let me see if I can get the perception right here. You have the Crew Dragon capsule here, and likely the camera here. And so the video that was being shot of the Dragon, you see an object kind of streak through the middle of it. That was, from everything that I could deduce from all of this, a different encounter and was considered space debris of some kind. So this particular one that I just went over, that is not the same. So totally different. So I believe a lot of people have combined that and went, oh, well, they're lying because there's a video of it. That was something different. I believe it was the same mission. However, that was totally different. So this was a different encounter that they tried to blame. So that was when they were already up in orbit, if I remember correctly, that object kind of streaked in between. And then the one I'm referring to was as they had launched and they were going to orbit. That's when NASA radioed in and said, prepare for collision, and they locked themselves in, and then nothing happened. So that was that difference between the two incidents. So do you think that NGA would have anything FOIA-able on the UAP topic? Yes, I possibly. So there's been a lot of comments about the NGA's involvement. I believe that they were also, if memory serves, on the UAP report. So to a point, yes, I have open requests here. Okay, so I'm not broadcasting my screen. Hold on one second. So yeah, here I can actually like cross-reference. Okay, so I do have multiple cases still open on UAPs with the NGA. So that way, you know, we can kind of figure out, the way that I've pursued it is that there's a couple different angles. They were obviously, and I'm going to pull it up and show you guys. Sorry, I work with a couple different screens, and I want to make sure that I don't inadvertently flash something that is maybe personal, you know, an email screen or something like that. So bear with me here. All right. So this is the public report for UAPs. NGA was listed in there. So what I did for those viewers of this channel, I mean, I filed over 50 cases based on this 9-page report. And the reason why the number is seemingly high is all of these different agencies and military branches and offices that are listed here, including the NGA, all played some type of a role, albeit sometimes small, but albeit a role nonetheless in this report. And so what I did was go after information with all of these agencies, NGA included. And so we'll see, you know, how much satellite data and how much SIGINT and stuff like that did they deal with, and we don't really know, just simply because, you know, we have no idea at this point what kind of role some of these agencies played. You know, I mean, for example, the Air Force, being really mum about the whole thing, is listed in there as contributing. I've said it quite a few times now on this channel, but keep in mind that, this was co-authored by a major general from the United States Air Force who works with ODNI, and he did it in conjunction with the UAPTF. So the Air Force has a much bigger role in this than than we might think, just based on their silence. But regardless, that is how the NGA kind of became on my radar, so to speak. I believe years and years ago, like way before ATIP and the current conversation about this had hit NGA in the past, and it came up negative. I've hit NRO in the past. National Reconnaissance Office has come up negative. So, it's hard to gauge how much will come up, if at all, which, by the way, NRO is on there as well. So it's hard to gauge at all, like, will we discover something, with it? So I'm not really sure. We'll see. Let me see. I keep hearing about this. ABG, thoughts on Anjali's story? Have you dug in to confirm the background? For those who aren't aware, to be honest with you, I wasn't really aware of it until the press conference that was on the steps of, what was it, Memorial or the Capitol or something. I don't really recall. I watched a couple minutes of it. They tied it in with Gaia, the online streaming service. And she's talking about taking scientists out to this location, and there's aliens involved and all this stuff. Look, that's just way out of my wheelhouse. I don't buy into it. Did I dig in to confirm her background? To be honest with you, have not. When people have a group of chosen ones, that always bothers me. And that's not the first time, meaning if you really have access or you're taking these people to see something, why did you do a press release or a press conference about all of that? Live stream wherever you're taking them, and that's your intro. If you want to tease it, fine. You want to build it up, fine. Are there cameras when they get taken to this secret spot? I don't know. I didn't hear that, but I admittedly didn't listen to the whole press conference. But regardless, like, when these major stories, these major claims come out, we live in a world like the video you're watching right now, behind the scenes, live from my office here, just because I thought, hey, I've got the technology to do it. Let's just have fun. As I believe it was Judy had said, have fun, because the technology is there. The technology is there for her to go to whatever, location this is and broadcast this major world-changing event of what she's trying to claim, but she doesn't do that. Instead, it's taking a select few, whomever, to see it. That was what I took away. I could be wrong, so please, by all means, if I am wrong, I apologize. But it was ludicrous in the sense that it wasn't worth it. So no, I didn't look into it. If the world changes because of Anjali, I'll be happy to be wrong on that. Let me see a couple others here. JL, I would bet the NRO would have more info than the NGA. I 100% agree with you. But the NRO told me they got nothing. So what, could they lie? Could they be lying? Sure, absolutely. I'm not really sure. Sebastian. Oh God, no, John, don't flash us. No, that was not what I meant. I just meant personal information like emails and people corresponding with me. And then I flash my, Outlook on screen. That's what I'm talking about. Silly people. Just a side note. Now we know why Luis Elizondo was off the radar. That's some scary stuff. But he mentioned there's a lot of things taking place behind the public view. I'm not sure what part you're referring to and why he was off the radar. I have heard, and it's come up on this show, that there is stuff coming, that there's a drop coming soon. I'm not really sure. So I'm eager to hear that. I'm not sure which part of, I believe I know what part, but I know he just did an interview last night on YouTube with Christina Gomez, who is an awesome young lady doing a great channel, a lot of great work. I know she interviewed him. Maybe something was revealed there, so I'm not real sure. But the stuff taking place behind the scenes, I'm eager to hear more about that with proof. But I keep hearing that. I'm not harping on Luis Elizondo, but there's all these rumors going around that all this stuff is happening and going on, but nobody's really showing anything. Where's the beef? That's what I say. Where the heck is the Coast Guard in all of this? Great question. I do have, let me see. Also, open requests since last year. Man, they just are really dragging. But I do have open cases with the Coast Guard. So this was kind of nice on these. So thank you guys for being a little bit forgiving on the raw aspect of it, but I can better answer your story. On live streams, I try and be a little bit more structured, but just verifying, the Coast Guard. So I've hit them with FOIAs. I've got an open case seeking out UFO, UAP information. Obviously, if the Navy is having these encounters out there, it should be happening to the Coast Guard as well, operating in the same vicinities and the same waters. If it's happening to one and not the other, there'll be a whole list of questions I'll be asking about that. I'm sure I won't be alone. Mike Galosi, that's a funny comment. I'm not going to be putting it on screen, though, but funny nonetheless. You guys are having fun talking. I love that. So Mark, you didn't listen, John. She said it has nothing to do with Gaia TV, no connection whatsoever. Now, Mark, that could very well be true. So I apologize if you felt I was giving away false information, but I'm fairly confident that was Gaia's, one of their either owners or executive producers that was up there with her, and he introduced himself as being from Gaia. So if I misheard that, I'll apologize. But even though she may have said there's no connection, she was introduced by what I believe was a Gaia executive. So why was he there? That I think that we should look at that. And it's so hard to watch these chats. Thank you, Monroe. Appreciate that. Okay. What are your thoughts on Michael Salla doing damage control with Corey Good and David Wilcock and the fact he parroted Good as a real insider? That's news to me, but I'm happy to react to it if true. I've met Michael Salla quite a few times over the years. I definitely don't agree with everything that he has said, but he's always struck me as a very nice man. So I don't want to come off disrespectful here because I don't have any personal disagreement with him, just more so about the information. But regardless, if he's defending people like Corey Good and David Wilcock, who in my opinion are more of the charlatan category, sorry guys, I just don't buy into the blue chicken cult stuff. If Salla is saying that he's a real insider, I don't buy that. I mean, this goes into the secret space program and these wild claims that, in my opinion, just are not backed up by facts and reality, and then I know sometimes things get blown out of proportion in social media, and I've always tried to acknowledge that with people, to not just brand them as a charlatan because I read something on Reddit or Twitter or Facebook, but rather I just don't buy what I've seen from those gentlemen. So if Michael Salla is defending that, saying they're real insiders, I personally and respectfully disagree. So, and I can see the comments about the blue chicken cult in the chat room, some of which I won't put on screen here. Please, guys, try and keep it somewhat tame. But yeah, I mean, I agree with you. It's just Don D. Well, you're not referring to the blue chicken cult, but ironically, the same people are on Gaia, and so, and I want to make sure. Okay, so Mark, I wanted to seek that out because I want to make sure that I give you a voice here, because I don't like responding to you and not giving you a time to respond. So if that's true, you're right. That's a good question. I did not know who that guy was at all. Yeah, so Mark, I am open to being wrong there, but I'm fairly confident I know who that gentleman is. I've been interviewed by Gaia before, and I have no problem with Gaia in the sense that I am just like anti-Gaia. You know, like again, it's one of those situations where I can separate my personal views on information from a network. Now, I haven't been on Gaia for many years, but George Norrie had asked me to be on his program, which also airs on Gaia, and I was happy to do that. I've been friends with George for many years. Tom Danheiser, who's his producer, also friends for many years. I like both of them. We have personally gotten along for many, many years, but professionally as well. So that was my connection. So I have no problem with them. I have friends that work there behind the scenes as producers. So nothing to be said about that. But I think that when you get to streaming networks like that, there's always a level of we should question it, just simply because I feel, and this goes through with that mummy situation. What was that? Was it Nazca? No. Aztec? No. I don't know. They're often referred to as the Gaia mummies. And I did this huge write-up years ago when it happened. And I was in an awkward spot because I knew one of the big producers over there had been friends with for many years. I'm still friends with her, although I'm not sure if she's still there. But regardless, you know, I just said that it was bunk. You know, it just did not make sense at all. And so my whole point with bringing that up is that if you truly have evidence of, let's say, an alien mummy or aliens or something to that effect, that is mainstream media newsworthy and not a pay $9.99 a month for our streaming service and you too can unlock the keys to the universe. I have huge problems with stories like that. And so fast forward to this new one, when a Gaia executive introduced it, that immediately, as no insult to Gaia, and that's not intended, but that immediately turns me off to what I'm about to hear, simply because if this is truly newsworthy, I want to see it on a mainstream media outlet because the evidence is there to support it being on a mainstream media outlet. Then you can do your offshoot series and get your $9.99 subscriptions, and all the more power to you. I'm an advocate for entrepreneurial endeavors. You know, if people want to have a business, then great. I support that. I have no problem. If you want to mislead and fabricate along the way, and I'm speaking generally, not on Gaia, if you want to do that, then no, I don't have respect for that. If you want to give information and let the audience decide, then I'm more on board with that. But regardless, going back to your question, Mark, Mark, that's where my apprehension was to even listen. So yeah, Sebastian, thanks for sticking around so long. Black Vault facts and files, baby. That's right. That's what I'm all about, or at least try to be, to make sure that everything is backed up, especially on this channel. Samples, thank you so much. You've been awesome this stream. If you were allowed one classified document, regardless if it's deemed top secret, what would it be? Well, I know that everybody who's watching, especially on this show, likely would want me to say the classified version of the UAP report. But I'm not. What I will say is a guess that a document exists. It's purely a guess. I believe that the 17 pages is accurate on a report given to Congress. If I were to bet money, I believe there is a draft that is much longer. And on these raw behind-the-scenes shows, I'll always try and give you guys nuggets that may or may not end up somewhere else. And here's one of them. I have a case for that. So whether do I believe it exists? I am 99.9% sure it does. I believe, and this is a guess, that the UAP task force generated a report, a lengthy one, not 400 pages, but I would bet money that 70 would be in the ballpark. I believe the UAPTF sent that report to ODNI, the Office of the Director of National Intelligence. And that Major General that I told you about was an Air Force Major General. And he was and let me make sure I have his title right. And I'll just so you know where I'm getting this from. I'm just looking for the right area. Forgive me here. It's that raw part. So there's a little bit of forgiveness here because I wasn't planning on going in there. Okay. ODNI prepared this report for the Congressional Intelligence and Armed Services Committee. Okay, we know that. UAP Task Force and the ODNI National Intelligence Manager for Aviation drafted this report with input from and then all those other agencies. The ODNI National Intelligence Manager for Aviation is a major general from the United States Air Force. I believe, and this is just a guess, I got to make an animation like speculation only, but I'm going to make a guess. UAPTF makes a report. 70 plus pages could absolutely be believable. And this is where I think the controversy is, even though people have fought me and said that the Senate got a 70 or 400 page report. What I think likely happened is that 70-page report goes to the ODNI National Intelligence Manager for Aviation, and he goes, we can't give Congress a 70-page report. They're not even going to read the cover page, so let's chop it down. In my opinion, that report that the UAPTF created as kind of the starting point, sends it over to ODNI for that final review, gets cut to 17 pages. That is what is coming up in my MDR case to get it reviewed, because that is what went to Congress. That's what I want to get my hands on. But to give you guys new information, if that draft, if a report like that exists, I put up a legal argument that it would not be considered a draft, but rather a final report made by the UAPTF. The ODNI National Intelligence Manager for Aviation, I would legally argue, made a different report, albeit a cut down version. And that was the final report given to Congress. I put up a legal argument that whatever the UAPTF did would be a separate but final report, not a draft, ergo not exempt from the Freedom of Information Act. And I've got a case open for that. So there's some new information for you. So going back to Sample's question, for the sake of this show and for what I just said, I would say that that classified UAPTF version would be what I would go for. So hopefully that gave you some new information for you guys sticking around on this behind the scenes look at how it's all done, but also a way for me to open up to questions and stuff like that. We'll do another question or two, and then I'm going to have to cut the stream here. Yes, thank you. It was the Peru mummies. Yes, Jim, that was the story that I was talking about. And in fact, let me just pull my screen for real quick. Okay, I did say Nazca, so that's good. I wasn't too far off. This was it. This was the article I wrote back in 2017, and I interviewed Gaia. That was the update there in July. So I originally posted it in June when that whole mess happened. And just to kind of give you a quick overview, I mean, look, I wanted these to be real, obviously, but I went through and really did a ton of research about how it was all done and how silly it was on how they were handling everything, if these were alien mummies. And I even interviewed this guy. I found this guy. He was literally trying to scam and sell these fabricated mummies. And he made them out of, like, if memory serves, like dog bones and chicken bones and skin and stuff like that. And when he tried to essentially scam different museums, they laughed him out the front door, and he kind of switched and then went on and said, look, all of this is fake. So I talked to this guy. I've got the interview and everything. A lot of people got involved, but this page has everything on it. So that's so I remembered the Nazca for whatever, but yeah, these were the mummies, just to kind of visually tell you guys what it was all about. Let me see. I appreciate that because I was really insecure about it. This live BTS RAW experiment is turning out pretty well. Ion Trone, thank you. It seems like everybody is really kind of sticking around during this, so I appreciate it for you not being bored. Hopefully it was fun to not only see the behind-the-scenes stuff, but also just kind of throwing out random information and being able to pull you guys into some of the videos and stuff like that. So I think that's, I'm sure there's a lot of other questions in there that I missed. I was trying to see what stuck out, the super chats. Thank you. And I really do appreciate it. One other thing, I missed this one. Wait, there's some more. See, the chat thing just jumps to the bottom. Let me deal with these because I don't want to miss you guys. Black Dread Scotland, would you interview Robert Hastings? Absolutely. Robert is one I've really, actually, I don't think I've ever met. I may have met him through a MUFON symposium when I emceed for them and brought him on stage. But I've never, from my recollection anyway, have talked to him. So, but absolutely, I think he would be a fascinating guest. Now I've become death. Thank you for your support. John, I wonder if documents showing the secrecy behind the A-bomb show the same pattern of secrecy regarding UAP. A leopard never changes his spots. I wonder if documents showing the secrecy behind the A-bomb show the same pattern of secret. Okay, sorry, I had to read that for a second time. It's quite possible. Secrecy is obviously something that they are very good at, as much as we don't want to think that they are. They're very good at keeping secrets. You know, stuff leaks out, secrets are revealed. Sometimes I feel that's strategic, but that's another video in itself. But the way that they have the secrecy around the A-bomb and that type of development will be the same exact way that they handle UAP secrecy in a way. And so, you know, with that, can you really deduce what they're doing to cover all this up from the A-bomb? Not really, to figure out any tricks or backdoors, so to speak, if that's what you meant. But rather, it just shows that they're good at keeping secrets if they want to. And that's the sad reality for someone like me who really goes at and really tries to get those secrets and really try to uncover everything through the Freedom of Information Act. Because if they don't want to release it, they won't. That information that's classified, if they don't want to release it, they never, ever, ever will. They will find a way to hide it. So, you know, will they continue to do that with UAPs? Well, it goes back to my explanation earlier in the video that I believe there are going to be certain portions that are caught under a classified banner that may be able to come out. And my closing thought on that is the reality that the gimbal, the Go Fast, and the FLIR videos, those original UFO, UAP videos that surfaced, that leaked out, but eventually were officially released, were all unclassified when they were shot. They were never classified videos. They were considered classified secret at different times while they investigated the leak, and then while they originally did the review with Mr. Elizondo's request internally. There was a short time frame where they considered them secret. Other than that, though, they were not. So with that, thank you guys. I really appreciate your time. Thanks for the experiment. Let me know in the comments what you think below. And and that was what I was trying to potentially stop. But my wife came home and with the kids. And so there you go. There's the behind the scenes. That happens a lot when I was trying to record. I heard them come in, was trying to cut it. She is going to be embarrassed for 2 weeks. But that said, thank you guys. I appreciate it. It's a fun experiment. Going back to what I was saying with the behind the scenes, let me know if you want to see this more often. If you didn't like it, that's okay too. It was something that, again, I just wanted to have a lot of fun with. All right. So thank you guys, and we'll see you next time. Thanks again.